Hey, it's your girl Carla Renata, aka the Curvy Film Critic. Welcome back to another episode of my podcast. I am your host, Carla Renata, and you have tuned into the Curvy Critic with Carla Renata. And what I do here is I talk to and review talent above and below the line in the film industry. I got a jam-packed show for you today. But before we get into all of that, let me say hello to my peeps that are in the chat room. Hello, Brandon. Yes, baby, here we go. And I know that you saw Space Jam yesterday. You loved it. You thought it was a lot of fun with LeBron James and the Toon Squad. And we're going to talk about that a little later on. But before we get into all of that, if this is your first time joining me, please take a moment to click the thumbs up to let me know that you were here. Click the bell for notifications if you are on YouTube, and subscribe to the channel no matter what platform you are on, right? Because you never know who's going to show up here at the Curvy Critic with Carla Renata. So what I usually do is I start the show out talking about what my week was like and all that kind of stuff. So this past week, I did a lot of interviews. I did a lot of junkets, and I mostly did some stuff for the Bentonville Film Festival. You've heard me talk about them for the last couple of weeks. Their festival is coming up from August 3rd to August 8th, the Bentonville Film Festival, or BFF, as we love to call it. I moderated the conversations for a plethora of films, including Catch the Fair One, 7 Days, The Daphne Project, and a whole bunch more. But you guys go over there and support female filmmakers. You know, that's how I roll. I love supporting my female brethren in the filmmaking space. And so I did a lot of moderating for that. I also did a moderating panel for the NALEAP Media Festival, which I've talked about on this platform many times, because I love NALEAP. And NALEAP stands for the National Association of Latin International Producers. That's what it stands for. And I moderated a conversation around a film called Summertime, which is directed by Carlos Lopez Estrada. If that name sounds familiar to you, it is because Carlos Lopez Estrada is also associated with Blind Spotting. And here is the information on the Bentonville Film Festival. Again, August 2nd through the 8th. You can get it at bentonvillefilm.org to get more information about that. And I also want to give a big shout out to my friend Yvette Nicole Brown, who was nominated for her first Emmy ever this week, along with some other people. So I'll talk about that. But before I get into that, I see that there's some other people. Oh, I'll get to y'all in a minute. All right. So before I get into all of that, let us take a really quick trip around the curve, baby. Here we go. Hey, let's take a trip around the curve. The Daytime Emmys went down yesterday, and Mark Hamill was honored with an Outstanding Performer in a Preschool Animated Program for his role as Bewley in the Elena of Avalor series, and Lupita Nyong'o landed an Outstanding Limited Performance in a Children's Program win for Bookmarks, Celebrating Black Voices. Netflix has paused filming on an upcoming musical adaptation of Matilda, and the second season of Bridgerton was also delayed by a positive COVID-19 test. Concerns have been raised worldwide by the spread of the Delta variant, which can be countered by vaccines but is more infectious than the original version of the virus. The Cannes Film Festival award winners are in, and Julia Durkanow became the second female director to win the Palme d'Or at the festival. The first was Jane Champion, who shared honors in '93 with her film The Piano and Farewell My Concubine. The Primetime Emmy nominations were announced with a record-whopping 49 nominees for people of color, including first-timers Yvette Nicole Brown, Anjanou Ellis, and MJ Rodriguez, the first transgender nominee for Best Actress. Meghan Markle, the Duchess of Sussex, under the banner of Archwell Productions, is creating an animated series Pearl for Netflix centering on the adventure of a 12-year-old girl. Good Times, All in the Family, and The Jeffersons are headed to Amazon Prime Video / IMDb TV in the largest streaming deal for the Norman Lear classics. HFPA just can't stay out of the headlines, y'all. Longtime member Judy Solomon, who's 90, expressed outrage over a proposal restricting members who have been with the organization for more than 20 years from voting and or from paid travel by the group. Paramount Plus has ordered 10 episodes of a Grease prequel series, Grease Rise of the Pink Ladies, created by Annabelle Oakes. Prentice Penny has teamed up with writer and actress Mozan Marno and author Marjan Kamali for the small screen adaptation of The Stationery Shop. And Pulitzer Prize New York Drama Critics Circle winning playwright Michael R. Jackson has sold an original pitch to write an untitled horror feature for A24. Antonio Banderas is Harrison Ford's newest co-star in the anticipated next installment in the Indiana Jones franchise, and Charlie Wiggins, the most famous African-American race car driver of the 20s and 30s, is the subject of a new biopic produced by racing staples IndyCar and Firestone. This week on The Curvy Critic with Carla Renata, we're talking about The Loneliest Whale. I'll also be talking about the documentary with Naomi Osaka, which is streaming on Netflix, and I will have interviews, lots of them, including Snake Eyes star Henry Golden, a review of Escape Room, reviews of Joe Bell starring Mark Wahlberg, and interviews with Felicity Jones, Shailene Woodley, Callum Turner, and Naban Rizwan from The Last Letter from Your Lover on Netflix. That's it for this week's Around the Curve. All right, that was a really quick trip around the curve. All right, so let's get right into it. You already know what I'm talking about. We're going to go right into my review of Space Jam: A New Legacy. But before I do that, it is my Curvy Classic for this week. And I want to give, you know how I roll with the Curvy Classic. I always give you some gems and some things that we didn't know about the film before it came out. So this is a sequel to Space Jam, which starred Michael Jordan a long time ago, 25 years to be exact. This is the 25th year anniversary of Space Jam. Space Jam: A New Legacy stars LeBron James, Zendaya, and a whole host of NBA and WNBA stars, in addition to Don Cheadle. All right, so now that we've said that, let me give you these facts about the original Space Jam. The original Space Jam began as a concept for a Hair Jordan Nike commercial face-off between Bugs Bunny and Michael Jordan. That's where the origins from it derived. That particular film, the one that was filmed 25 years ago, was filmed entirely in green screen. Everybody had on green suits. It was a situation. It was also the first time we found out, as fans of the Warner Brother Bugs Bunny franchise, that Bugs had a girlfriend, Lola Bunny. Who knew? Which this time in Space Jam: A New Legacy is being played by Zendaya. The critics were mixed on the last one. The critics were mixed on this one, but it doesn't matter. The very first Space Jam was the highest grossing basketball film of all time. It grossed $90 million. This sequel has grossed a little over 30 million domestically, I believe. And if it hasn't grossed more than the original, it's probably because, unlike the original, there weren't streaming options back then. You could only go to a theater to see a film. Now we have streaming options. And because Bugs Bunny is under the Warner Brothers umbrella, that means it's also streaming via HBO Max in addition to being in the theater. So that probably has cut into its gross just a little bit. There's also a difference between the first one and the second one, where the last time it was a bunch of NBA players, and this time we've got NBA and WNBA stars in it. So having said all of that, Space Jam, which is produced by Warner Brothers, is directed. Ooh, excuse me, I can't even talk. Not directed, but it is in theaters. It stars LeBron James and Zendaya. Like I said, there's a whole lot of Warner Brothers branding, like a whole lot of Warner Brothers branding. So much so that I was like, oh Lord, what is going on? Is this a commercial for Warner Brothers or is it an animated movie? I'm not sure. It's directed by Malcolm D. Lee. We know his name from the Best Man franchise. And I love Malcolm D. Lee, and I love his films. Um, there's more animation in this version than there is in the first one. The first one, there's a lot going on in terms of real action story. This one, the first half is real action story. The second half is pure up animation. Now, I have said many times here on the Curvy Critic with Carla Nada, I am always down for some talking animals and talking babies. And I always try to look at these particular films from the lens of who the audience is made for. The audience that this is made for are not big ass adults like me. It's made for children. It's made for people that have a child's heart. So if you love the first Space Jam, you're going to love this one. Did I love Space Jam: A New Legacy? I'm kind of mixed on it. But like I said, I love talking animals and I love talking babies. So, and I realize that this film is specifically geared toward a specific audience, which would not be me. So having said that, again, if you are a fan of the Space Jam Legacy or Space Jam, the original one with Michael Jordan, you will love it. Both Space Jam and Space Jam Legacy are streaming right now on HBO Max. All right. So, what are you talking about, Brandon? A Netflix animated series called Pearl, Sign Me Up. Yes, I'm all about that one too. Yes, I'm all about that one too. All right, cool. So let's go into so that's with that one. Space Jam, directed by Malcolm D. Lee, produced by Warner Brothers, streaming on HBO Max. All right, so the next film I want to talk to you guys about is a documentary that is streaming via Netflix. It's a 4-part mini documentary series. It is based on, well, not based on, but is centered around the tennis player Naomi Osaka. She recently took a mental break from doing press because trying to get your stamina and your concentration on for the Wimbledon and all of that and the Grand Slams and all that, and then trying to do press. It's a lot, and we forget she's young. I believe she's under 21. So she's a gorgeous girl, just absolutely stunning. She's been a cover girl for a variety of different things. And in this documentary series, they talk a lot about her mental health. They talk about why she took the break that she did. They talk about her straddling that fence of trying to do her best as an athlete and as a champion. And then they also get into, for a brief second, her relationship with Kobe Bryant, because he had passed away right around the middle of them shooting this documentary series. So it is filmed. It is directed by Bradley Garrett, who also did the documentary Time. So we want to give her some props because that was a great documentary. And I believe it was nominated for an Academy Award this past year too. So it's directed by Garrett Bradley. It's called Naomi Osaka. It is streaming via Netflix. And it basically goes into, just to reiterate, it goes into the unprecedented access that was given regarding Osaka. They followed her for a whole year from the United States Open to August 2019 and on tour as she plays in each of the Grand Slams and prepares for the 2020 Olympics. And this past week, there was a whole lot of drama and people talking about her black card has been revoked because she chose to play for Japan and not the U.S. That was always her plan. She's still black. You can't revoke somebody's black card if their skin is black. Like, that just sounds ridiculous to me. But I'm not going to comment on that state of affairs. My job is to comment on the film. I saw all 4 parts of the docuseries. It is riveting. You must check it out. All right, so another film that I saw is a film called Snake Eyes, and I love action adventure movies. And I've told y'all many times how much I love action adventure movies, and this time I got an opportunity to see Snake Eyes. It is being produced by Paramount Pictures. It's directed by Robert Schwenke, and it stars Henry Golding, Andrew Koji. Let me pull them up for you so that you know who I'm talking about. Henry Golding, Andrew Koji, Haruka Abe, and my girl, Ursula Corbero. Now, When I tell y'all, it's a lot going on in this movie. It's a lot going on in this movie. There's a lot of action. This film is a G.I. Joe spinoff of the G.I. Joe film franchise. There's women warriors. I was down for all of the women not being subservient, being ninja warriors, fighting, kicking butt in their own right. This is an origin story for the character of Snake Eyes in the G.I. Joe franchise. And it mostly deals with Snake Eyes getting revenge for avenging his father's death, but it also delves into the relationship that he ends up having with Storm. They end up being like brothers, and it begs the question of how far would you go to protect someone that you love? So, having said that, I'm going to let y'all take a look and a listen to this interview that I did with the star of Snake Eyes, Mr. Henry Golding.
Hey, Carla.
Hi, Henry. How you doing today?
Yeah, really good.
Cool. Well, we have one thing in common before we start. Nico Santos.
Hey, he's amazing, isn't he?
Yes, that's my superstore buddy. But baby, I can't wait to talk to you about this movie because I was talking to Andrew about what I call the shish kebab scene.
Oh, yeah.
The scene where y'all are in that car. What was the most difficult part of shooting that for you?
That sequence that you see in the build-up to that moment that you're talking about, we filmed for 4 days non-stop at this location in a port. Like, it's pretty much a working fishing port. But that is one of the biggest undertakings that we had, was like the start of this film. You're instantly thrown into this like massive action sequence. We see our heroes kind of running from hordes and hordes of men, having to sort of fight their way out. So it was, after 2 months of solid training, it was getting to that moment and then finally churning out day after day, like continuous action sequences. So for me, I think that whole front end of the movie was a real challenge.
Cool. And I know that I'm not sure if you had your kid yet or if you're about to have your kid.
She's out there and ready. She's like three and a half months old now.
So being a first-time dad, we know that Snake lost his dad in the film, but you being a first-time dad, what is the one piece of advice that you want to impart onto your child that maybe your dad didn't tell you?
Wow. Yeah, growing up back then, it was a very traditional father-son relationship. I think that was for everybody, really.
Yeah.
Not until this day and age where it's normal to talk about feelings. It's normal to talk about emotions and mental state. I think for me, it would be just to check in on her, when she's growing up, to really ask the hard questions. Some things that our parents say were really kind of like scared of asking us. But now I don't think there's any pretenses of trying to get to the bottom of somebody's mental health. So I would just be continuously trying to sort of check in and make sure she's on the right path that she chose, not something that I chose.
Oh, I love that. That's a good piece of advice, Henry Golden. Okay. I kind of love you for that. Okay. And last but not least, brother, you have gone from being a hairdresser to a model to a travel host to a crazy rich Asian, and now you are in the G.I. Joe franchise. How geeked are you for that? And did you play with G.I. Joe when you were a kid?
Yeah, I was very aware of G.I. Joes, but growing up outside of the States, it was hard to get hold of that sort of stuff. So I was kind of into comic books, the X-Men, and sort of there's Action Man we had in the UK, which is, I think, the British version of the G.I. Joes was Action Man. So vicariously, I was sort of attuned to G.I. Joes, but it didn't stop me loving sort of being and sitting in this world, because of course I watched the movies sort of in yesteryear and the past sort of iterations, and being very acutely aware of the long history of the comic book stories. But for us to be able to kind of reinvent it, but still stay true to some of the canon that is so beloved, I think was really important. So for us, we're just really excited to open up to a new audience and get them involved and loving the franchise.
Well, you did it, and I loved it. And I hadn't seen any of the franchise, but I am all in now that I've seen you in it, because you are the bomb.com. Thank you so much for taking time to talk to me today, Henry. I appreciate you.
I appreciate you as well. Take care.
Bye. What a cutie pie is he? Don't you kind of love Henry Golding? I didn't think I could love him anymore after seeing him in Crazy Rich Asians and watching him be a travel host for many, many years. But I'm like a new, like geeked out, brand new, like rejuvenated fan. So I couldn't give y'all an interview with Henry Golding without giving you the interview with his brother, Andrew Koji. So take a look and a listen with this interview with Andrew Koji, aka Storm. Hey, Andrew.
How you doing? I love your title. Yeah.
Thank you. So let me just get right into it. Those stunt scenes were insane. They were crazy. And the ones that I'm really particularly interested in talking about is the one in the fish market where your hands were behind your back in the cuffs, and the one that I call the shish kebab scene, the one where y'all are in the truck with all the knives.
Oh, yeah.
How difficult was it to prep for those and shoot them? Did y'all have a take where you just busted up laughing? Like while you were sitting in that truck with those knives, where you just like, oh, this is crazy, and you just kind of laughed, or were you like, no, I need to concentrate?
Yeah. I'm not much of a laugher during when I'm filming because I'm serious. But probably I did. I don't know. Maybe it's I think there was one that came out that way, which it was like, what? Because I was trying to time it to be the last minute possible that I could come out. So I was going they said 3, 2, 1 every time at 3, 2, 1, then it would come out. But I try and time it just after 1, just so 3, 2, 1, like that. Yeah.
I love that scene. It had me on the edge of my seat.
Kebab scene.
Yeah. I call it the shish kebab scene. Snake and Storm are like brothers in arms, right? And they're very similar, but they're very different. Do you think there's a line in the film where it says every warrior has a weakness? Do you think that Storm's weakness is Snake to a certain extent?
I think yeah. I mean, definitely. I think his weakness is, I think he's got a few, but I think his desire for a family and his vision for his future, it blindsides him essentially to what's really going on. And so Snake Eyes is the guy that, he was looking for a second in command, and I think because of that, I think it definitely blindsides him to what actually is going on, his ways, yeah.
And one other stunt I wanted to ask you about real quick, the one where you guys are on that truck bed and it's moving, was that CGI'd or was that real? I
mean, the truck was real. That was a CGI. It wasn't on the motorway.
Okay.
So there was green screen, blue screen. And then they had these amazing kind of lights going back and forward to emulate the motorway, and then the wind going in. And then the rattling of the actual thing. So you do all the prep, for the sword fights, and then you get there and you're like, whoa, like that. But yeah.
Well, that's my time. But in closing, I just want to tell you, I think you're a wonderful actor. I really enjoy watching you. And you have a Bruce Lee-ish kind of quality to you. And I'm sure that if he were here, he would really enjoy watching you as well. So, but I wanted to say that before we parted ways. And thank you so very much for taking time out of your day for me. I appreciate you.
Oh, no, thank you. Thank you so much for that. Thank you. Yeah.
You're welcome. Bye now.
Until the next time. Yeah.
Until the next time.
Until the next time.
Yeah, I meant that. Andrew Koji is no joke. I mean, we know Bruce Lee, we know Jackie Chan, we know Jet Li, all these other wonderful martial artists in these films. But I'm telling you, Andrew Koji is the next big thing. His acting, like I totally believe that he was emotionally tortured as Storm in this film. I was there for all of that. I want to show you guys this picture real quick because I did go to the Space Jam premiere. And so I took a picture in the I took a picture in the carrot frame, the carrot throne, and I just want to put this over it. Yes, Space Jam, the OG, you grew up on it, Brandon, and you saw the new one and loved it. I kind of was digging it too, but I would be remiss if I didn't show y'all that picture because I thought that was pure comedy. I really, really did. So having said that, let me get back on up here. All right, here we go. So I also saw another film that's called The Last letter from your lover. Oh, and before I say that, the interviews with Haruka, Abe, and Ursula Corbero will be on my YouTube channel in the one-on-one playlist. Catch the interviews there because we're running short on time today, and I don't have time to show all of those interviews and these other ones. I don't want to take up too much of you guys' time. So go to the YouTube channel right after this is over, and you'll be able to catch those there. So The Last Letter from Your Lover is going to be streaming on Netflix beginning July 23rd. It's directed by Augustine Frizzell, and it stars Shailene Woodley, Felicity Jones, Naban Rizwar, and Callum Turner. This film, there's a movie that I saw back in the day called Backstreet with Susan Hayward. And I speak to both couples about that particular film and suggest that they see it because it reminds me a lot of that. It's a pair of interwoven stories that's set in the past and in the present. And it follows this ambitious journalist played by Felicity Jones, who is determined to solve the mystery of a forbidden love affair, which happens between Shailene Woodley and Callum Turner, at the center of a trove street of secret love letters from 1965. So I want you guys to just take a look and a listen at these two interviews that I did with Felicity and Naban, and then the other one with Shailene and Callum. So take a look at this one with Shailene and Callum first. Shailene, I'm going to direct my first question to you. This was a really glamorous part for you. Did you get your entire life wearing those 60s fashion hair and makeup? Because you look like a curvier version of Jackie O.
I loved it. I loved dressing up as Jennifer. The woman who did my hair and makeup is so talented. She did everything in like 35 minutes. I had no idea how she could do it. And everything from the hair, the makeup, the nails, the different way of positioning your body to breathe specific ways and move in different kind of sensual movements than you would normally do. And the accessories that came with the outfits, like the gloves and the stockings and the shoes, it felt like I was transported to a different era, genuinely. And that was a treat because you feel like a little girl playing dress up.
I saw a quote that you said one time where you said you learned more from films than life itself. And I'm just wondering, for both of you, what did you learn in the process of shooting this particular film?
Well, I learned a lot from Shay, and I learned a lot from Augustine, just by being so free and open and honest and powerful through osmosis and through lots of conversations. I learned how to go deeper and be more myself. And it was such a wonderful experience because of that.
I mean, I'd have to say the same thing. I think, Callum and Augustine and I, we really created this, and Joe as well. I didn't get to work with Joe as much, but Joe, sorry, that's my dog.
That's
Joe,
okay.
Joe is absolutely, everybody just had this sense of like surrender and play and like true camaraderie. And through that process, I think it allows you to feel super safe within yourself. And so you're discovering newness within yourself every single day in reflection to the people that you're surrounded by.
Did either of you get to read the book beforehand, before starting shooting?
I read the book after I got the film. I hadn't read it before, but yeah, and actually part of the process with Shay and Augustine was reworking scenes and going through it to find moments and to go deeper and deeper and deeper so we could bring these to life.
Same. I hadn't read the book until I got the project, and the book did become our Bible in a sense. It was the thing that we kept resorting back to figure out how we could make the script more robust in some ways.
You guys have to check out this movie that I saw a long time ago. I want to tell you this at the end of the interview. There's a film called Backstreet. Have you ever heard of that film?
No,
it stars Susan Hayward. You have to watch that film. That's all I'm going to tell you about it. You got to watch it. It's so very similar in many ways to what goes on here, because this film is like a cross between, it's a cross between like Backstreet and Message in a Bottle. Check it out. Cool. Backstreet, Susan Hayward. Check it out.
Thank you.
You are welcome. It is my pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Have a great day.
You too. Bye.
Hey, bye, Carla.
Bye.
They were lovely. And I love that they were open to my suggestion about that film because it really does remind me a little bit of Message in a Bottle with Kevin Costner and Susan Hayward's Backstreet, which is an old 50s joint. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful movie. If you have not seen it, please find it on YouTube or the internet somewhere and watch it. You will be absolutely enthralled. Okay, so having said that, we've talked to Shailene and Callum. So now let's talk to Felicity and Naban.
Hi, Carla. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Hey, Naban. You
Hey,
looking snazzy over there in that red jacket.
thank you, thank you.
All right. So, Felicity, this was a departure from most of your films. You got to be a little crazy. You got to be a little silly. You got to be a little fluffy and light. How are you feeling about that? Because I thoroughly enjoyed it myself.
Oh, I loved it. I loved it. I was desperate to do something where I'd just done the Aeronauts before where I was in immense amount of pain doing all these stunts. So I was like, I'm not doing that for a bit. I just want to be doing a nice love story where I get to wear comfortable clothes. So it was absolutely perfect. And just a really lovely film to work on.
Now, you've been in many romantic films or films that have had romance attached to them. But Naban, I think, is this the first time you've done something more in a romantic / kind of comedy vein?
I would say so, yeah.
Did you enjoy it?
Oh, very much so. It was so refreshing and a joy to film, like from the start of the process, from the audition to the first rehearsals with Felicity and Augustine, right through to the last day. It was, just pure joy.
Speaking of rehearsals, how much bonding did you guys have to do? Because you guys have a very close relationship within the confines of the film. So, and you have mad chemistry and you can't fake that on screen. So what did you guys do to kind of like bond to get it together on camera?
Well, it felt like we just had a similar sense of humor, I think, just naturally. And I mean, that's probably good casting, but we had a bit of rehearsal before, which is always good. So you can get to know each other and it just somehow, it just worked. And it just was a really unpressured environment to film in. I think for Shailene and Callum, they had, more of the kind of emotional heavy lifting. So we felt like we just had to have a good time, which is always a good thing to have to do in a film.
I need to see y'all break off into a romantic comedy of your own, because
we should have a spin-off.
Right. I just needed a spin-off with just the two of y'all by yourself. Let's talk about that pastry scene before I get up out of here. That was pure comedy. Now, how many times did y'all have to do that? And Naban, I know you had to break up at least once, and I know some pastry went flying everywhere.
Yeah, it was a lot of pastry. I would just say more than 10.
Did you say more than 10?
I mean, that's what it felt like.
Yeah, the prop person was getting really worried because he was like, "We don't have that many more croissants. We've only got 10." What was that?
Oh my God, that was pure comedy. At one point, I was like, here in America, when we do commercials and whenever we do stuff like that, they have a spit bucket for us to spit stuff out. Did you do that, or did you literally like wolf them down?
No, I was like, it's the scene I was most looking forward to because I love a croissant. So I was just eating. At first, I was eating every single one, and then I just started to feel more and more sick. And I was like, oh, this is why people spit it out in the bucket.
Isn't it like almond-filled croissants?
Yeah, which is so one, maybe 2, but 10, not so sure about.
Girl, well, snaps and claps to you on that one, because I was like, oh Lord, I don't know if I could have done that. Well, that's my time, y'all. This was so much fun. I really enjoyed talking to you. I'm waiting for people to see the film because it was hella good. So thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Oh, thank you.
Thanks so much.
You're welcome. Bye. Again, The Last Letter from Your Lover will be on Netflix streaming there on July 23rd. So check it out. It is a gut-wrenching heart-wrenching love story that was written by Jojo Mays and is directed by Augustine Frizzell. I will have Augustine and Jojo here next week. I didn't have time for them this week, so I will roll them over to next week, and you can catch that interview with them here at the Curvy Critic with Carla Renata then. All right, so there's a film called The Loneliest Whale, and we're in the tail end of Shark Week. So, I got to talk about The Loneliest Whale. It's directed by Joshua Zeman, and it deals with this whale that they call 52. So it's called Finding 52, The Search for the Loneliest Whale in the World. And this is the situation with 52. It's a feature-length, The Loneliest Whale featuring 52, Finding 52, I mean. So this is a feature-length documentary that takes you on a journey to find the forgotten 52 hertz whale, calling out at 52 hertz, a frequency that is unrecognized by other whales. This mysterious creature is believed to have lived life in complete solitude. It calls forever unanswered by its own kind. In our ever-present fascination with these majestic beasts, the tale of 52 has prompted an intense reaction among our own species, pointing to a greater awareness of human loneliness than ever before. First of all, let me just say, I didn't even know that whales had a frequency. So I was like, okay, they have a frequency. Oh, and it's 52 hertz. Oh, and there's a whole mystery around this whale that's been uncovered for centuries and centuries and centuries. I was kind of there for that. And you guys know I love documentaries. I love being educated about things that I don't know. So I was there for all of that. This is streaming right now, and it is in theaters right now. It is called The Loneliest Whale. And just a side note, everything that I talk about here film-wise, the written reviews are always up on Rotten Tomatoes and on my site, thecurvyfilmcritic.com. Okay, having said that, let's talk about a little Escape Room. Okay. All right. Escape Room is a film. Escape Room Tournament of Champions is a film that is directed by Adam Robitel, and it is produced by under the Columbia Pictures, Sony Pictures banner. In the first Escape Room, we found out that these 6 people were invited to play this game, and only 2 of them survived. The 2 that survived were played by Taylor Russell and by Logan Miller, respectively, Zoe Davis and Ben Miller. And this one, these 6 people, another group of 6 people, find themselves locked in another series of escape rooms, slowly uncovering what they have in common to survive, joining forces of the original survivors, which I just mentioned, and who have all played the game before. This was the problem that I had with Escape Room for the most part. I felt like in the first one, we all eventually found out why these people were invited to the escape room and what they had in common with each other. I feel like in the Tournament of Champions, it's a lot of action, it's beautifully shot. The sound design is bananas, but it's kind of like on 11 the whole time. But I feel like this one, the story was slighted just a little bit. Like we only know the story of a few of the players in the film and not all of them, right? And that was the biggest problem that I had with it. If I had to choose between the first one and the second one, I prefer the first one to Escape Room Tournament of Champions. But, check it out for yourself. Again, it's called Escape Room Tournament of Champions, and it is produced under the Sony Columbia Pictures banner. Another documentary that I saw, I love my documentaries. Another documentary that I saw is called Catch and Kill Podcast. It is streaming on HBO Max. There are some episodes that are directed by Fenton Bailey. There are some that are directed by Randy Barbato. Basically, now, Ronan Farrow recently did another documentary series on HBO Max that centered around Woody Allen and Mia Farrow and his alleged child molestation accusations and the court cases and all of that. Ronan Farrow is the child of Mia Farrow and Woody Allen. Okay, so let me just get that out of the way. Ronan Farrow also is an award-winning journalist. So this time he is gathered intimate, revealing interviews with whistleblowers, journalists, and private investigators and other sources for his book Catch and Kill, which ironically centers around this docuseries on HBO Max, centers around the arrest and the accusations around Harvey Weinstein. Now, we recently saw that Bill Cosby was released from jail due to a technicality in his case. And I heard on the news, that Harvey Weinstein called up his lawyers and he was like, so Bill got off. Can I get off too? No, Harvey Weinstein, you cannot. So there's that. But there was this one Indian young lady that Ronan interviews, and she talks about having a wire put on her and how her career was ruined and how she tried to take Harvey Weinstein down, and it didn't happen in that moment, but it eventually did. The shenanigans that men in the entertainment industry up until the Harvey Weinstein, Bill Cosby, Woody Allen shenanigans took place is actually very mind-boggling. Everybody knows in the industry that this stuff is going down. Nobody says anything. And then when the people are caught and they've been called out for their actions, people are like, oh my God, I didn't know that happened. Let me tell you something. I lived in an apartment building in Hollywood where a young woman that lived in my building was trying to get into, and Harvey Weinstein was notorious apparently for preying on young women who wanted to get into the movie business. He was notoriously known for, if he attached himself to a star or to a movie, that movie would go on to win Academy Awards and all kinds of accolades, right? So this young lady that lived in my building was going through Craigslist, and she saw an ad in Craigslist for some Hollywood heavyweight that needed a date to an event. She went to, it wasn't Harvey Weinstein. Let me just clarify that. It was not Harvey Weinstein. And I don't want to say who it was, but it's somebody that if I said their name, you would know who it was. This young lady goes to the event. She ends up coming home and she was a wreck when she got back, because they went from this event back to this man's house. And there were shenanigans happening in the house, and she eventually got out of the house and got back to her home. These are the types of things that these men in Hollywood were doing up until all of these court cases and getting away with it. That is not okay. It is not okay. So I'm glad that Ronan Farrow is, putting a big old spotlight on all of this. And I'm glad that it's all coming to light now, because somebody needs to talk about it, and somebody needs to, hold people accountable, help other people hold them accountable for their actions. So again, this is called Catch and Kill Podcast. It's streaming on HBO Max. Some episodes are directed by Fenton Bailey. Some are directed by Randy Barbato. It is 4 episodes. They've already aired 2, so you have the opportunity to catch the other 2 sooner than later. Now, let me just recap, why don't we? So again, I saw Space Jam: A New Legacy, which is in theaters and streaming on HBO Max right now. Snake Eyes, which is a Paramount Pictures flick starring Henry Golding, Haruka Abe, Andrew Koji, and Ursula Cordero, will hit theaters on July 23rd. The Naomi Osaka documentary is streaming on Netflix. And The Last Letter from Your Lover will start streaming on Netflix on July 23rd. The Loneliest Whale is in theaters right now. Catch and Kill Podcast, HBO Max, is streaming on HBO. I'm sorry. Catch and Kill Podcast is streaming on HBO Max. And you have 2 more episodes of that to catch. Okay, but hold up. Wait a minute. Before I get up out of here, because this went way longer than I had intended, I have some really great guests coming up for you next week. I have the one and only Oscar-winning actress, director, activist, Lee Grant. Miss Grant's people reached out to me, and she wants me to do an exclusive interview with her. So I will have her here next week. I will also have those interviews that I told you about with Augustine Frizzell and Jojo Mays from The Last Letter from Your Lover. And I will have Reed Miller from the Joe Bell movie, which I didn't review here, but you can see the written review of Joe Bell on my website, thecurvyfilmcritic.com. And hold up, wait a minute, one more. I am going to have an interview with somebody I have been crushing on for quite some time, Mr. Matt Damon, who just came off of a 5-minute standing ovation for his film Stillwater. We'll be the Curvy Film Critic, is going to be talking to Matt Damon about Stillwater. So I'll have him here either next week or in a couple of weeks. But that is it for this episode of the Curvy Film Critic with Carla Renata. Thank you so much for joining me. Thank you, Brandon, and everybody else that's in the chat room that always comes and supports us, sister. I appreciate you. Please click the bell for notifications. If you are on YouTube, give me a big thumbs up to let me know that you were here. And I will see y'all next week. Please wash your hands. Stay 6 feet apart. Let's kick this Delta variant in the behind. We don't want anything else to stop us from hugging and loving and reaching out on our peeps. Before I go, let me show you the pictures now. This is Reed Miller, who I'm going to have next week, and then I can't wait. This is Lee Grant. Ooh, this is Lee Grant. And this is my boy, Matt Damon. Ooh, honey, your girl is way too excited. I can't stand myself. Anyway, until the next time, y'all, love, peace, and hair grease. And I will see you on the flip side. Bye. Okay, I'm at the end of the show. I clicked the wrong button, but here you go.